Imagine this. You're standing in front of a room filled with people. Their eyes are on you. Your heart is racing, your palms are sweating, and your mind is swirling with one big question. What if I mess up? Public speaking can feel like the ultimate test of confidence. Whether it's delivering a presentation, answering a question in class, or speaking up in a meeting, many of us have faced that fear. And if you're learning English, the challenge might seem even bigger. But here's the good news. Every great speaker started somewhere. Even the most confident people you admire, actors, leaders, teachers, had a first time. And that's what today's story is all about. My first public speech. By the end of this video, you'll learn how that moment helped me grow, the lessons I discovered along the way, and how you can use these tips to feel more confident in your own English-speaking journey. Whether you're preparing for your first big speech or just want to improve your everyday conversations, this story will inspire you to take that first step. Are you ready? Let's dive in. Let me take you back to the day it all started. I was in my early years of school, and like many people, I preferred blending into the background rather than standing out. Speaking in front of a crowd? That felt impossible. One day, my teacher announced a class project that would end with each of us giving a short speech in front of the entire school. My heart sank. The entire school? I couldn't imagine anything more terrifying. For days, I tried convincing myself that maybe I'd get sick, or maybe the event would be canceled. But deep down, I knew I couldn't run from it. I had to face the challenge head on. The topic I chose for my speech was simple: my favorite hobby. It felt safe, something I could talk about without needing too much research. But even then, I struggled with the words. What if I forgot what to say? What if people laughed at me? If you've ever felt this way about speaking in English or any language, you're not alone. I know how it feels to doubt yourself, to wonder if your words will come out right, or if others will judge you. But what I learned from that moment is something that changed the way I approached not just public speaking, but also how I carry myself in everyday life. And trust me, it's something you can use too. Let me tell you what happened next, and how I took one of the scariest experiences of my life and turned it into an opportunity to grow. Now let's talk about why public speaking, especially in a second language like English, can feel so intimidating. It's not just about the words you say. It's about how you connect with your audience, how you convey your message, and how you manage the fear of judgment. And this fear? It's completely normal. In fact, research shows that public speaking is one of the most common fears people have, often ranking higher than the fear of death. It's not surprising, right? Standing in front of a group of people and having all eyes on you can trigger a lot of anxiety. But what we often forget is that the fear we experience is part of the process. It's a signal that we're doing something important, something that can help us grow. Now, why is this topic so important for you, especially if you're learning English? Well, being able to speak confidently in public isn't just about impressing others. It's about expressing yourself and making meaningful connections with people. It's a skill that can open doors, whether you're giving a work presentation, participating in a group discussion, or even just speaking up in a casual conversation. Here's something that might surprise you. The more you push through that discomfort, the better you get. The key is to start, and starting is exactly what I did, even when I was terrified. Let's take a look at the bigger picture. When you begin to embrace the fear and learn from each experience, you build not just confidence, but also resilience. Public speaking, and mastering it, is one of the most powerful tools in your personal and professional toolkit. And as you'll see in the next part of the story, the lessons I learned during my first speech didn't just apply to that one moment. They shaped the way I approached every challenge after. So, how do we turn this fear into something empowering? Well, here's where the real journey begins. Now let's break this down. The fear of speaking in front of others may seem overwhelming, but there are some core concepts that can help you not just survive your first speech, but truly thrive. These aren't just tricks or shortcuts. They're strategies that, if you practice them, can transform the way you speak in English and in any language. The first step is preparation. Sounds simple, right? But preparation is more than just memorizing your speech or rehearsing in front of a mirror. It's about knowing your topic so well that you can talk about it with ease, even if your nerves try to get the best of you. Think of it like this. The more familiar you are with your material, the more confident you'll feel. Second, let's talk about breathing. When we're nervous, we tend to breathe shallowly, and that only makes us feel more anxious. Deep, slow breaths, focusing on your breath, can calm your body and mind, helping you regain control. This is a game changer when you're speaking in front of a crowd, especially in a second language. The third concept is connection. Public speaking isn't just about delivering words. It's about connecting with your audience. Imagine you're having a conversation with a friend rather than speaking to a crowd. This simple shift in perspective can completely change how you feel about speaking. And finally, there's embracing mistakes. No one is perfect, and that's perfectly okay. In fact, mistakes are often the most memorable moments of any speech. When you embrace the idea that it's okay to mess up, you'll be free to focus on sharing your message rather than worrying about every little detail. These four concepts, preparation, breathing, connection, and embracing mistakes, are the foundation of confidence in public speaking. They are the tools I use to turn my fear into strength. And as you'll see, each of these concepts played a crucial role in my first speech. In the next section, we'll dive into the first key point: how preparation helped me face the fear and deliver a message that felt authentic, even when I was shaking in my shoes. Let's start with the first key point: preparation. When I first learned that I had to give a speech in front of the whole school, I instantly felt the pressure to be perfect. But I soon realized that perfection wasn't the goal. Instead, the goal was to prepare so well that I could speak confidently, even if things didn't go exactly as planned. In the days leading up to my speech, I spent hours researching my topic. I didn't just want to read off a script. I wanted to understand my subject deeply so that I could speak naturally. The more I knew about the topic, the less I had to worry about remembering every single word. I practiced my speech over and over. But instead of focusing on memorizing every sentence, I focused on feeling the flow of the message. I imagined myself speaking to a friend, someone I knew well, so the words would come more naturally. The more I rehearsed, the more comfortable I became with my own voice. A great tip here is to break your speech down into small chunks. Instead of trying to memorize the entire thing at once, learn one section at a time. This way, you can focus on perfecting one part before moving to the next. I also use simple index cards with key points, so I didn't feel like I had to remember everything at once. And here's an important takeaway: don't just practice in your head. Practice out loud. Speak in front of a mirror, record yourself, or even practice in front of a friend or family member. The more you say the words out loud, the easier they'll flow when you're in front of an audience. But preparation isn't just about what you say. It's also about how you feel when you speak. And that's where the next key point comes in: breathing. Because, trust me, it's impossible to sound confident if your body is tense and your heart is racing. So, let's talk about how breathing helped me regain control during my speech and why it's such an essential tool for overcoming nerves. Now let's talk about breathing. When I stepped up to give my first speech, I immediately noticed something. My breath was shallow, my chest felt tight, and my voice was trembling. This is something many of us experience when we're nervous. We instinctively hold our breath, which only makes the anxiety worse. But here's the thing: the way we breathe has a huge impact on how we feel and how we perform. The moment I realized this, I took a step back and focused on my breath. I started practicing deep breathing techniques, and it made a world of difference. Instead of panicking, I took a slow, deep breath in through my nose, counting to 4. I held it for a moment, then exhaled slowly through my mouth, again counting to 4. It's simple, but it's powerful. Deep breathing activates the parasympathetic nervous system, which helps calm your body and clear your mind. When you're speaking in public, this gives you control over your emotions and keeps your focus sharp. This breathing technique also helped me project my voice. When we're nervous, our voices can become shaky or soft, and that makes it harder for the audience to hear us, which in turn can increase our anxiety. But when you breathe deeply in from your diaphragm, your voice becomes stronger, clearer, and more confident. In fact, one of the most important things I learned in my first public speaking experience was that when I focused on my breath, everything else followed. I could focus on delivering my message, not worrying about whether I was shaking or stumbling over words. This made a huge difference in how I felt during the speech and how I came across to my audience. this isn't just about public speaking, by the way. Breathing exercises are valuable tools in everyday conversations too, especially when you're speaking in English or any second language. If you're ever feeling nervous during a conversation, whether in a meeting, a class, or even a casual chat, remember to pause, take a breath, and reset. You'll feel more grounded and ready to speak confidently. Next, let's dive into connection. Now, this is where everything comes together. It's one thing to speak with confidence, but it's another to speak with purpose, connecting with your audience in a meaningful way. Let's explore how I learned to do just that. Let's move on to the third key point, connection. This is where public speaking truly transforms. I realized early on that it wasn't enough just to speak clearly or breathe deeply. I needed to make sure my audience was with me, listening, engaging, and understanding. In my first speech, I decided to focus on one thing. How could I connect with the people in front of me? I looked out at the audience and remembered something my teacher once told me. Your audience is not your enemy. They want you to succeed. This was a game changer. Instead of feeling nervous about being judged, I shifted my focus to the idea of a conversation. Public speaking doesn't have to be a one-way delivery of information. It's an exchange, a connection. I began imagining that I wasn't standing on stage, but sitting with a friend, sharing something I was passionate about. This simple shift in perspective made me feel more at ease. I allowed myself to speak with more warmth, to smile, and to make eye contact with different people in the crowd. I realized that when I connected with them in this way, my nerves started to fade. They weren't just hearing me, they were with me. I also learned to ask rhetorical questions during my speech, like, have you ever felt like this? Or can you relate to this experience? These questions allowed the audience to reflect on their own experiences, making the speech feel more personal. I also used pauses effectively, not just to give myself a moment to breathe, but to let my words sink in, allowing the audience to connect with the message I was sharing. And here's something you might find surprising. When you make that connection, people don't care if you stumble a little or if you forget a line. What matters most is that they feel like they're part of the experience. They want to hear your story and they want to see you, not just your words, but your emotions, your authenticity. Now, if you're thinking, but what if I'm speaking to people who don't speak English as their first language? That's okay too. Connection isn't just about speaking perfectly. It's about being real. When you share something meaningful, people will connect with your sincerity, regardless of whether you have an accent or make a mistake. In my speech, the audience appreciated my honesty and my willingness to be vulnerable. I wasn't trying to impress them with fancy words or flawless grammar. I was simply sharing my story, and that made all the difference. Next, let's talk about something even more freeing: embracing mistakes. In fact, it was my mistakes that helped me grow and made my speech more memorable. Let's dive into that in the next section. As you've been listening to my story, I hope you've been reflecting on your own experiences with public speaking. Can you relate to the nervousness I felt before stepping up? Maybe you faced that same fear of speaking in front of others, especially when English isn't your first language. If so, you're not alone. Now let's pause for a moment and think, what would you say if you were giving a speech today? Imagine you have an audience in front of you, and it's your turn to speak. What topic would you choose? How would you introduce yourself? You don't need to answer out loud, but take a moment to reflect. Picture yourself standing there, confident, calm, and ready to share your message. How does it feel? If you feel any hesitation or uncertainty, that's perfectly normal. The goal is to notice those feelings and use them to fuel your growth. As we go through the next steps together, I want you to remember one thing. You already have the ability to speak confidently. The tools we're discussing, preparation, breathing, connection, and embracing mistakes, are all things you can start using right away. Let's think about how these concepts can apply to your own journey. How can you prepare for your next conversation or speech? Maybe you can start by practicing one of the breathing exercises we discussed earlier. Or perhaps you can try connecting with your audience by asking them questions that invite them into the conversation. Take a moment to reflect on these questions and think about how they can shape the way you approach public speaking or any conversation in English. I'd love to hear your thoughts. What's the biggest challenge you face when it comes to speaking in public? Drop a comment below and share your experiences with me. Remember, this is a conversation, not a monologue. And as you continue practicing these tips, you'll see the confidence you build today pay off in the future. In the next section, we'll tackle how to handle challenges and setbacks, and how to use them to your advantage. But before we do, take a deep breath, and remember, you're already on the right path. Let's dive into the fourth key point, embracing mistakes. Now, I know this might sound a bit counterintuitive. After all, most of us have been taught to avoid mistakes at all costs, especially when speaking in front of others. But here's the truth. Mistakes are not only inevitable, they're also incredibly valuable. During my first public speech, I made several mistakes. I stumbled over a few words, got a bit off track, and even forgot a line. But instead of panicking, I decided to keep going. Here's why. When I made a mistake, I didn't let it define me. Instead of feeling embarrassed, I used it as an opportunity to connect with my audience. For example, at one point, I accidentally skipped a part of my speech. Normally, I would have frozen and become overwhelmed by fear. But instead, I smiled, looked at the audience, and said, "Well, I guess I'm getting ahead of myself." The crowd laughed, and just like that, the tension in my body melted away. That moment of vulnerability didn't make me seem less competent. It made me seem more human, more relatable. When you embrace mistakes, you free yourself from the pressure of trying to be perfect. You start to see them as a natural part of the process, rather than something to be feared. And when you're learning English, this is crucial. It's not about speaking flawlessly. It's about expressing yourself authentically and improving over time. Every mistake is a stepping stone toward becoming a better speaker. In fact, I've learned that the best speakers are often those who are most comfortable with making mistakes. They don't view errors as failures. They view them as learning opportunities. And guess what? The more you speak, the fewer mistakes you'll make, because you'll have developed the skills to handle any challenge that comes your way. So, the next time you make a mistake, whether it's in a speech, a conversation, or even a casual chat in English, don't see it as a setback. Embrace it, learn from it, and remember, it's not the mistake that matters. It's how you handle it. Now that we've explored the power of mistakes, let's move on to the final key point, tying everything together to create a cohesive, impactful message. Now let's talk about the fifth and final key point, tying everything together. After all the preparation, breathing, connection, and embracing of mistakes, the most important part of public speaking is the message you're delivering. How do you pull all these elements together into a speech that resonates with your audience? For me, this was the turning point in my first speech. I had gone through the steps, I had practiced, and I was prepared. But now, I had to find a way to make all those elements connect into a cohesive narrative, something that would leave a lasting impact on my audience. The key to this is to bring everything full circle. Throughout your speech, you've been building up key points, creating connections, and even learning from your mistakes. Now, it's time to summarize these lessons and leave your audience with something memorable. For me, this came at the very end of my speech, when I took a deep breath, paused, and said, "We all have a story to tell. And no matter how imperfect, how nervous, or how flawed we feel, it's worth sharing. Because in the end, our voices matter." That was the moment everything clicked. I had tied together my preparation, my vulnerability, and my message into one simple but powerful statement. So how can you tie everything together in your own speeches or conversations? One technique that helped me is repeating your core message throughout the speech. This reinforces your main point and ensures that it sticks with your audience. It's also a great way to make sure that everything you've talked about leads back to that central idea. Another method is to end with a call to action. After all, you're not just giving a speech for the sake of it. You're speaking to inspire change, to motivate, or to teach something new. Whether you're asking your audience to think differently, take action, or share their thoughts, the end of your speech should empower them to do something. And finally, a strong closing should leave your audience with a feeling of completion. It should feel like you've taken them on a journey and that they're walking away with something they can use or reflect on. For me, that sense of accomplishment was the knowledge that I had faced my fears, shared my message, and connected with others. To sum it up, here's the key takeaway. Tying everything together is about creating purpose. Your speech, your message, and even your mistakes should all work together to create something bigger than just words. It should be a story your audience will remember. Now that we've covered all the key points, we're almost ready to wrap things up. But before we do, let's talk about how to take all of this and apply it in your own life, starting today. In the next section, we'll go over some practical steps you can take to put all this into action and start building your confidence right away. And now we arrive at the most important part of your journey, the climax, the moment where everything you've learned, practiced, and experienced comes together to create a breakthrough. This is the moment where your confidence isn't just something you've been trying to build. It's something you've earned through action and experience. Here's the big reveal. The secret to public speaking isn't about being flawless or perfect. It's about being yourself. That's the most powerful takeaway I learned from my first speech. When you embrace your authentic self, when you speak from the heart and let go of the fear of judgment, that's when you truly connect with your audience. In that moment, when I stepped up to the podium, I was no longer focused on the fear of making a mistake or trying to impress anyone. Instead, I simply focused on sharing my truth, my story, and my message. I stopped pretending to be someone I wasn't, and instead, I allowed my personality to shine through. This shift in mindset was transformational. No longer was I concerned about the perfect delivery, the ideal words, or even how I was perceived. I was simply present. And when I let go of that pressure, my confidence soared. And you know what? The audience felt it. They didn't remember the stumbles, the small mistakes, or even the parts where I lost my place. What they remembered was the energy, the passion, and the sincerity that came through in my words. The confidence I was trying so hard to achieve didn't come from a script or from the fear of mistakes. It came from within. This is the real secret to becoming a confident speaker. Stop worrying about being perfect and start focusing on being authentic. Your audience wants to connect with you, not a flawless version of you, but the real you. When you stop hiding behind perfection and embrace vulnerability, that's when the true magic of public speaking happens. Think about it. When you speak confidently and authentically, people are drawn to you. They're not just listening to your words, they're connecting with your energy. You don't need to be a professional speaker or use big, impressive vocabulary. You just need to be real. So, what's the major reveal for you? It's that you already have everything you need to succeed as a public speaker. Confidence is not something you have to fake. It's something you cultivate by being true to yourself. Every time you speak, whether it's in front of a large group or in a one-on-one conversation, you're getting better, more comfortable, and more confident. This is the turning point in your journey, the moment where everything clicks. And just like that, you're no longer afraid of speaking in public. You're excited to share your message, knowing that you don't need to be perfect, you just need to be you. In the next section, we'll walk through some actionable steps to help you start putting this newfound confidence into practice, whether you're preparing for your next speech or having a conversation in English. But before we do, take a moment to reflect on what you've learned so far. How does it feel to embrace your authentic self when speaking? Let's explore how to use that confidence in real-life situations next. Now that we've gone through all the key concepts, from breathing techniques to embracing mistakes and the power of authentic connection, it's time to talk about how you can take everything you've learned and put it into action. After all, confidence doesn't come from knowledge alone, it comes from practice. So let's break down a simple, actionable plan that you can start using today to improve your public speaking, whether you're preparing for a big speech or just trying to improve your communication in English. Step 1. Start small. You don't need to jump into a big public speaking event right away. Start with small, low-pressure situations where you can practice speaking. This might be sharing a thought in a meeting, having a conversation with a friend, or even speaking out loud while practicing English on your own. The key is to get comfortable speaking regularly. Action tip. Challenge yourself to speak for 1 to 2 minutes a day. Pick a topic, whether it's about your day, your goals, or something you're passionate about, and speak about it out loud. Focus on speaking clearly, breathing deeply, and connecting with what you're saying. Step 2. Use deep breathing. In every speech or conversation, remember the power of deep breathing. Whenever you feel nervous or uncertain, take a moment to pause and breathe. Deep breathing helps calm your nerves, clear your mind, and strengthen your voice. Action tip. Practice a deep breathing exercise before any conversation or speech. Breathe in for 4 seconds, hold for 4 seconds, and exhale for 4 seconds. Do this 3 times to ground yourself and relax. Step 3. Embrace mistakes as learning opportunities. Remember that mistakes are part of the process and nothing to be afraid of. Instead of trying to be perfect, embrace those small slip-ups as opportunities to learn and grow. When you make a mistake, acknowledge it with confidence. Let your audience know that you're human and move on. This will build rapport and make your speech more authentic. Action tip. Next time you speak in front of others, try to let go of the fear of making mistakes. If you stumble over a word or lose your place, simply smile and move forward. Consider every mistake a chance to improve and refine your speaking skills. Step 4. Focus on connection, not perfection. When you speak, don't focus solely on the words. Instead, focus on making a meaningful connection with your audience. Whether it's eye contact, asking questions, or using body language, aim to connect with the people you're speaking to. This will help you feel more comfortable and allow you to be more engaging and impactful. Action tip. Before a conversation or speech, ask yourself, how can I make this message relatable to my audience? Whether it's sharing a personal story, asking a question, or using humor, focus on how you can connect emotionally with others. Step 5. Set achievable goals and track your progress. Confidence comes with practice, so set specific, achievable goals to track your progress. This could include speaking in front of a certain number of people, delivering a short speech, or learning how to manage nervousness more effectively. Each step you take will help you build your confidence over time. Action tip. Set a goal for your next speech or conversation. Maybe it's to speak for 5 minutes without pausing too much, or to introduce yourself confidently in a new situation. Write down your goal, practice it, and reflect on your progress. Step 6. Practice, practice, practice. Lastly, the most important step, practice. The more you speak in different situations, the more confident you'll become. Practice doesn't just help you learn your material. It also helps you get comfortable with the process of speaking and refine your ability to connect with your audience. Action tip. Set aside time each week to practice speaking. This could be through formal speeches, informal conversations, or self-talk exercises. The more you practice, the more comfortable you'll become with speaking, even in stressful situations. As we come to the end of this journey together, let's take a moment to recap the key takeaways from today's session. Start small. Begin by practicing public speaking in low-pressure situations. The more you speak, the more confident you'll become. Breathing techniques. Use deep breathing to calm your nerves and focus your mind before and during your speech. Embrace mistakes. Don't fear mistakes. Instead, embrace them as opportunities to learn and grow. Every mistake makes you stronger. Focus on connection. It's not about being perfect. It's about connecting with your audience. Be authentic, and your message will resonate. Set achievable goals. Break your journey into small, manageable steps and track your progress over time. Practice, practice, practice. The more you practice, the more comfortable and confident you'll become in any speaking situation. Remember, confidence in public speaking and in English doesn't come overnight. But with each step you take, you'll get closer to becoming the confident speaker you've always wanted to be. It's a journey of continuous growth, and you're already on the right path. Your next step, I encourage you to take action today. Start with one small step. Whether it's practicing deep breathing before your next conversation, embracing a mistake as a learning opportunity, or setting a goal for your next speech. Whatever it is, take that first step and keep building from there. And now, I want to hear from you. What is one action you're going to take after watching this video? Leave a comment below and share your thoughts. Let's continue the conversation, and together, we can support each other in becoming more confident speakers. Like this video if you found these tips helpful and want more content like this to help you improve your public speaking and English skills. Share this video with someone who might benefit from it. We all know someone who could use a little more confidence when speaking. Subscribe to this channel for more practical tips, inspiring stories, and lessons to help you grow in your language learning and personal development journey. Thank you so much for watching, and remember, you've got this. Your voice is powerful, And with every step you take, you're becoming a stronger, more confident communicator. Keep practicing, and I'll see you in the next video.